All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. I'm Kyle, AA0Z, and welcome to the new CW Operators Roundtable, another installment every 2 weeks on Monday at 8 p.m. Central. I'm here with the cast of characters here. This week, we're going to talk about the 13 word per minute hump. I'm sure that there is probably a lot of people wondering, is there a hump? What hump is at 13 words per minute? Oh, crap. I haven't gotten that far. Do I have another hump to get over? So, one of the things that we're going to ask in the chat here is does the hump exist? And what is your current speed that you are copying at today? And we've had some pre-discussion here, and it's got some. I think this is going to be an interesting topic on how to. Basically, it's how to improve your copying skills and get to the point where you need to get to. Right. First, we'll go around the room and see what everyone has been doing in the CW world. Vince, hello, sir. How are you? What have you been doing related to CW?
Good evening, old man. Fine business. You are 599. Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, Kyle.
Hello.
Um, hey, I just came back from a trip and it was a quick 1 day work trip up into the north part of the province. I was listening to a whole bunch of code practice tapes and trying to figure out what my listening and copying speed is for head copy. So it's real timely. Yeah, I've been working on that. We got Morse tutors getting ready to go out the door. We'll talk about that later. And got a new to me radio, a little 4 band QRP radio because my beloved KX3 is still away, although returning soon.
Very good.
So, just lots going on.
Very good. I want to thank Dan for the super chat, the Humpty Hump. I'm sure that Dan has some comments about the Humpty Hump. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
They
What,
have to be family friendly comments about the Humpty Hump, just to say.
uh, Vince? Where are you? I really don't want to bring up a sore subject, but where are you in your 200 contacts per month?
Oh, good question. I took it off the whiteboard. Hang on. It's not a sore topic at all. I'll discuss this with anybody because I'm expecting for the first half of the year that I'm just going to be behind plan. I don't care because it's just all progress towards a goal. So 654 out of 800 as of the end of April, except I added 28 to that, whatever that maths out to. I've just come in the door, so I haven't had a chance to add those contacts that I made on the last day of April. So I'm still 700 out of 800, but now we're in the month of May, so I'm 700 on 1,000.
Yep.
I'm doing
Okay.
okay. I'm
Yep.
perfectly happy with that.
Good deal. Very good. Thanks for being here, Vince. Appreciate it. Tim, N7KOM. What's
Howdy, howdy.
I've you've been spotted a couple times, and I getting to Washington and Oregon and that location over there, even with a beam pointed right at you. I have a hard time hearing you, but I have seen you spotted, but have not heard you.
Well, that's a good spot to kick off because everyone in the chat should add all our call signs to their ham alerts,
Oh,
and
yes.
I have everyone here in my ham alert, and when
Better log
RBN
in it.
picks them up, can run over to the radio. Can't always do that, but able to make a few QSOs here or there. So I'm gonna give a little plug there for that.
Yes.
What have I been doing? Been pretty busy. Haven't gotten out too much. Latest video, we got a new puppy sleeping right next to me here, but so I've been taking him out on a couple activations. Did one soda activation with him. I attempted to do a cross-country ski mobile POTA portable activation dog pulling me on a leash sort of thing, and the footage and an audio recording from that is unusable. So there won't be a video coming out from that, and there was terrible band conditions. I initially tried to do SSB only because I figured that was just going to be easier juggling the dog and the skis, and made a couple contacts on 40 with that, but it was terrible conditions, really wasn't getting a signal out. And so I switched to CW and discovered that I can send CW while skiing and wrangling a dog.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's impressive. Like, so I know this has nothing to do with CW, but how do you attach the dog to yourself to pull yourself on the skis?
Yeah, so my setup, I was wearing my backpack and I had a ski pole coming out of the backpack and then the Elecraft AX1 attached to the ski pole coming off of that. And then coax kind of running down to my rig and a fanny pack. And then the backpack has a hip belt, so I had the hip belt engaged and then just used a carabiner to attach the dog leash to my hip belt.
But you understand that you need to do this again and you need to film it. Like, you need to record this.
I mean, I have footage, but I don't have audio from the rig really or anything.
Just do a voiceover. Just do a voiceover.
Yeah. Yeah, I could do some voiceover audio of, there was an attempt. This is me skiing with my dog. There's an antenna on my back. I'm calling CQ for 45 minutes and getting nothing back.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, whenever you release that video, I'm definitely going to watch.
I'll see if I can like drop a picture in the chat or something.
Oh, yeah.
Were you dragging a counterpoise too, Tim?
I was dragging a counterpoise.
Wow.
And the KX2 tuned it right up, so I had great SWR.
Wow.
It was just bad conditions.
I want to thank Hayden for the $5 super chat. Did. Oh, you got to put some spaces in there, Hayden. I don't know where one starts and another one stops. Another character stop.
I don't know. It's musical, maybe.
Yeah, I'll figure out what's going on. So, all right, very good. Chris, what's been going on in your world? We haven't seen you in a while, but life and family probably have gotten in the way, right?
Well, the thing that's been really taking up my time is I'm one of the co-chairs for forums at Hamvention with Michael Coulter, W8CI.
Ah, very good.
And, that's been a lot of work, a lot of fun, and man, I'm just so stoked. I can't wait for Hamvention.
Well, I want to thank you for putting. I know that Hamvention is a ton of effort and time for everyone involved. So thank you for doing that. And yeah, I cannot wait for Hamvention. It is the best. It is the most awesome 4 or 5 days of the year for me. I love it. It's great.
Yeah. So that's taken a little bit of my time along with other stuff. The other cool thing that is coming up this week is I'm going down to Virginia to go to the W4 spring campout. Soda spring camp out. So there'll be, I think, 18 of us. And I'm going to go Thursday through Sunday. And in particular, I'm really excited. I'm going to hike one day with Patrick, WW4D, and then one day with Paula, Canine IR. And I'm excited just to spend time with them and learn how they do things and hike some mountains, play radio. So I'm pretty excited about that. So that's what I'm doing.
Very cool. Very cool. I saw that you had activated a park probably maybe a week and a half ago. And I saw you spotted. Maybe it was more than that.
Yeah, the last thing I activated was a soda summit. And
maybe it was a soda. Okay.
I was in and out fast because my dog was covered in ticks.
Oh.
Ooh. Yeah.
So I activated 15. I worked about 12 stations. I noticed the ticks. I'm not ashamed to say it. I was hoofing it so fast out of the forest with no trails that I got a little bit lost, and I lost my eyeglasses on the way out. It was a rough day. I'm not sure I'm going to do that summit ever again. But I probably will because I feel like I need to attack it and win it. It was the third time I'd activated that summit. And it's not that hard, but man, it was just a hard day. It was a hard day.
How's the pooch?
Oh, fine.
Good. All right. TJ, What's what have you been doing in CW?
Geez. Well, some of it's CW related. Like I activated Park on the Air. I think it's 4206 or maybe 4602. I might be dyslexic on that one. But try to get in a bunch of contacts before like a thunderstorm rolled in. So I've got everything set up, and then it rolled in faster than I thought. So I got about 10 contacts real quick, and then had to pack it up and get the heck out of there. So I at least got it out, some of it on video. And then I've been really trying to take my mobile setup and just make it better and better. So of course, optimized for CW, but that's what I've been kind of working on.
Very good. Cool. All right. So the topic of discussion today is the 13 word per minute hump. That's what everyone had said in my CW journey. Oh, you got to get over this 13 word per minute hump. But we were having a discussion before that maybe there are many humps, maybe there's zero, maybe it's all in everyone's head on getting over a certain word per minute limit. And Chris, I know that you had some opinions. Chris teaches for the Long Island CW Club, and I'm sure that he probably tells his students or has some opinions about if there's a hump, what is the word per minute hump? If there is one, how do you get over it? So I'm going to let kind of Chris take the realm here and kind of give his opinion on what he thinks that this 13 word per minute, if it exists or if it's all in everyone's head.
I think it's a really interesting question. Is the hump at 13 for everyone? And I think some of it might come down to how you started your CW journey, right? Like if you started at a higher character speed with more Farnsworth, or if you started with, zero extra spacing between your characters and you kept your character speed slow.
Yeah.
I'm going to back up one step. I'm not the smartest one in the LICW room. I'm just going to caveat what I'm saying with that. There's so many instructors that are way more talented than I am. But in my humble opinion, I think 13 words per minute can be a hump. Particularly at Long Island CW Club, all of the beginners classes have a focus to get you out of the beginners class structure at 12 words a minute.
Yeah.
So the 40 characters at 12 words a minute. And that's kind of the point where you're at least with the Long Island CW Club, and probably a lot of other folks who've learned CW, getting on the air 12, 13 words a minute. I think that's a typical speed people try to get on the air. So you're trying to get all 40 characters down. You're also trying to make contacts. So I think it is a little bit of a hump. And I'll wrap up with this thought. There's all kinds of plateaus or humps throughout CW for everyone. Like I have my plateaus that I'll be honest, I'm not really working that hard on them right now, but I have my plateaus and I won't get through them until I work hard and practice every day at it.
Yeah.
I think every CW op probably has something they're working on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I went out and activated a POTA on Saturday, and I had not done any CW in probably 2 weeks, and it showed. It showed. I mean, D's started to sound like B's, Z's started to sound like sevens, and it was it was a challenge. And I don't know if I ever the hump was, and I, tell you the truth, it all depends on the day. And we've talked about this again and again, where some days are better than others, right? Some days I'm able to copy like I'm talking, right? And there's some days that I just cannot pull an E out of a call sign to save my life, right? And I remember a couple of years ago, I was at Hamvention and I was in Contest U, and told them that, I was starting CW, and they're like, "Oh, have you gotten over the 13 word per minute hump?" And at the time, I had no idea that this thing even existed, right? I thought you just learned, right? And the speed that you learned at was the speed that you went at, and then everyone was saying, "Oh, you need to get to 20 words per minute because that is kind of the median of activations." And if you wanted to um, do soda, and at the time POTA wasn't that big of a thing, right? And I distinctively remember I was sitting in the back of a class, a presentation, and talking to this guy, and he's like, "Oh, you need to get over the 13 word per minute hump." So literally, then I started asking a whole bunch of people. I'm like, "What is this hump? Like, I don't understand what this hump is." And this is before Long Island CW Club. This was before I had not done anything in CW Ops, and I was asking a bunch of club members here in St. Louis, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, it's this big huge thing where you need to get over," and a lot of people have trouble. They just can't get over it. So I don't know if I mean, that was the first time it was implanted in my brain, but I don't know if like I just was learning, and I just went through the learning process, and I never really said to myself, "Oh, I'm over this hump." It was just I was learning. I was going through the process, right? So I don't know if people have, and you mentioned this, Chris, is it 13 words per minute? Is it 10 words per minute? Is it 16? Is it 18? It probably varies per person, but does the hump even exist, right? Is it just the pace that you learn at? And I know that I've hit some brick walls, and is that the hump? I don't know. I just know that I've hit a brick wall and I don't feel like I'm progressing, but I've also decided, all right, I'm not going to do CW for a couple of weeks, and then I get back into it, and it seems like I've got a new lease on CW, and I can get into it, and I can copy faster if I put it down for a while and then come back into it. I don't know, my 2 cents. But I think it varies for everyone. Everyone learns a different way, right? We're all unique, and the way that you learn is the way that you learn. And if you're going to hit the brick wall, just like everyone else does in this world on learning CW, and you just get through it, right? I mean, that's just, you get on the air, you start copying, you practice more. For me, I put it down for a couple of weeks, and then I got back into it, and I felt that I was copying faster whenever I, didn't copy for a couple of weeks. So
When you mentioned all the older hams at Contest University were talking to you about the 13 word per minute hump, the first thing that came into my brain was that was the old general class element, right?
Oh.
You had to pass at 13. So I wonder if that has a little bit of, I don't know.
Yeah, that was
What
actually
I'm
going to be
looking
my
for.
question for you, Chris, because sounded like maybe that's an old school way of thinking, and if that was tied to one of the license.
Yeah, that's
That is a good observation. I did not put those two together.
could be.
Yeah.
All right, question solved. Next.
TJ, what say you? What do you think? Does this hump exist, and how does somebody get over this hump?
I think it does, and I think maybe 13 is maybe an arbitrary number. I always said if you want to learn CW and you want to learn it at speed, set your speed at 18, because anything less than that you can start to really count dits and das. And I think at 13 words a minute, at least when I had to take the 13 word a minute test when it was kind of required for the general, I found myself still like da, 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 okay, that was a Y, and you can kind of like count it out as opposed to like listening to the actual, what do you call it, like the phrase like da 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 da. That would be a Y, right?
The shape of the sound.
Yeah, the shape of the sound, right? And so is it 13? Is it 14, 15, maybe 12? It might vary with each person. But once you start getting faster than that, and I've always said that, if you set your speed at 18 words a minute with, the character speed a little bit more than that, maybe 24 words a minute, something like that, that might be a good route to go. I should say, put your Farnsworth speed at 18 words a minute and then slow it down to, whatever, so you can get to that.
Yeah. Do you think the 13 word per minute is where you stop counting dits and das, and that's where you start listening to the sound of the character?
Yeah, I think it gets harder. Anything less than 13 words a minute, I don't even know if you really hear the sound. You just hear the dits and das, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Faster than that, you kind of like hear the sound. You're like, oh, and especially, much faster than that, you have to rely on the sound. You just can't memorize the dits and das. It turns into character recognition. And I think Long Island CW Club, I think they really tout what character recognition and, quick character recognition, instead of like figuring out what was that from a dits and das standpoint.
Yeah.
Yep.
Paul's got a very interesting comment in the chat here. He says, let me see if I can highlight it here.
It's difficult to send stretched out CW at low speed.
I totally
read that
agree.
first about a stretched out cord. Don't mind me. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
I totally agree. Whenever someone sends, if I'm sending 18 words a minute for POTA and someone comes back to me at 8 or 9, I'm asking for a fill. But that does not mean that it's incorrect, right? Or bad. That's just, and then I send at 18 words a minute, but then my foreign words is it's spaced out, right? Yeah. And so, but I seem to whenever I hear something at a slower speed, I do it to this day. I will literally be like, they will send da 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 da, and I will hear da 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 da, and I'll be like, I think that's a cue, and but whenever I hear it fast, I instantly, that character recognition pops in, and I'm like, oh, that's a cue, right? Something, once you get to a certain speed, whenever you hear something slower than a threshold that you're not used to, I start questioning myself and be like, I think that was a cue. Was that a cue? All right, I need a fill.
Start counting.
Yeah, the bane of the soda activator is, it's a heavy QSB day and you're asking for repeats and the chaser turns down their word per minute speed, and then all of a sudden you're having to count DAWs and like da da dit. Okay, that was a G, and it slows the whole thing down.
Yeah. So I guess, Tim, the best thing for someone, if they're sending too fast, is just to space it out, right?
Yeah, I try when I'm doing an activation. If there's someone who's really fast, I try to be very deliberate with my own spacing in the hopes that they slow down a little bit and try to match that.
Yeah.
I forget what the Q code is for slowing down.
QRS.
I need to get that one down and start sending that a little bit more.
Yes.
As far as the 13 words a minute is concerned, are we talking character spacing, Farnsworth, spaced out? What's the 13 word a minute threshold for everybody?
I kind of assumed it was combined.
Okay, so like 13 words a minute, like standard, straight up.
Yeah. I was assuming that it was running with no spacing, 13 words a minute, just keep going, right? No extra spacing. That's what I assumed.
Okay, because when I've taught people CW, I always say put the speed, put the spacing on 18 words a minute, and then, or put the CW speed at 18 words a minute, and then do it at a 13 word a minute pace.
Yeah.
Sure if I'm even saying that right, but crank it up to 18 words a minute. I try not to go less than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I go through this journey, I'm not 100% sure that even whenever I'm sending at 18 words a minute, there is that whole, well, your spacing has to be, if your dits are 1 unit and your DAs are, 3 units? And then the spacing in between the words is it 3 or 1? I can't remember. But anyway, I go at the pace that obviously I want to go at. And even whenever I'm thinking that I'm sending fast, I'm putting in the pace that I want to receive at, right? And it's not like if I sent a word to someone who runs at 30 words a minute, even though that it's fast for me, they would be like, "Oh, your spacing's off," or because I'm not. Let me rephrase that. If I send 20 words a minute and I put my spacing in there, it's probably going to sound like it's at 20 words a minute, but it's got some Farnsworth spacing in there, right?
Yeah.
Because that's just the way that I send, and maybe that's just the way that I operate a key, right? And there's other people that, like, a good example is Christian N1CLC. That guy, he is a speed demon, and he sends rapid pace and not a lot of spacing in between his characters. And that's just the way that he sends. And if you watch his videos, he sends that like that all the time, right? And that's just the way that he sends CW.
And if you are chasing him on Soda, it's very recognizable.
Yes.
His code coming through the speaker of your radio.
Yes.
You know that it is Chris.
Yes, yes. I mean, there's been times where I just hear the CLC and I know that it's Chris because I've missed the N and the 1, right? But I know that, and maybe it's more of how he's sending in his fist on the spacing technique, right? So I guess maybe the way that you send has a lot to do with it versus, if you send through N1MM and everything is very spaced correctly, right? You're going to get, you're going to hear it differently than you're going to hear somebody whenever they send it manually.
Yeah, indeed. So Kevin Laughlin posted an interesting video, and I'm going to paste a link to that in the YouTube. And I'm thinking that this kind of 13, maybe might be 15. I don't know. I'm speculating here. So Kevin's video is about he's built a keyer that takes and does exactly this. Da 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 da. It takes his voice and it reads that da 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 da, and it keys the radio form. It's a voice to key keyer. And he says he can, it's very cool. It's a great video. It's like fascinating stuff. But the fastest he says he can go is like 14 or 15 words a minute because that's as fast as he can talk. Mm. So now it makes me wonder, I'm still listening to characters going, did it, or da did it. And when I learned 20 years ago, I learned the phonics way. Dog did it. And a picture of a dog, creating a little pile. This dog's
yeah.
Dog did it. Da did it. Right. And like some of them I can't. No, some of them I can't unforget. And I won't share them with people. I don't want to taint people, but that one's the closest of all the phonetics I learned. So it's hard for me to get around those phonetics. Now there's only 3 or 4 of them I remember, but I can't unremember them. And it drives me crazy and it slows me down.
Yeah, that's like a whole extra translation your brain is having to do.
Bingo. So anyway, back to Kevin's stuff. So back to Kevin's little demo. And again, a fascinating keyer project for anybody who's got an oscilloscope and an Arduino, I think. If the fastest you can talk it is that speed, you probably can't think it much faster than that. And above that, it really pushes this whole thought of listening to the shapes of the sounds. I was
Yeah.
trying to explain to somebody today what learning Morse code is like. And I said, well, when you learn English in grade 1, as she and I did, you see the letter C and the letter A and the letter T. And then a moment later, you learn that they spell not CAT, but they spell cat. It's a different sound than the letters individually. And what we all strive for is to try to hear did da did it as the word and, as opposed to 3 characters individually. Try to hear the shape of that word, right? That's where we want to try and get to. At least that's what all of the experts tell me.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it is hard, like even in QSO, it's a change of the way you think, because you're actually, spelling every word. And it's, I mean, even if you're getting fast enough where you're starting to recognize words, you're still spelling a lot of them, right? So
I'm finally to the point where I'm hearing fractions of a word. I'll hear this, and I'll know that now I have to think about what words end in ERE. And that helps me to form those words. So I'm working on those word blocks when I'm working on everything else too. And that really helps me.
Yeah. I've noticed whenever I do the SSTs, maybe I won't get the first part of the word, but I will get the RIS and I'll be like, oh, that's Chris. So
Yeah.
I'm at the same level, I think, as you, Vince, on I'm getting partial word blocks and I'm decoding. I find that there's some letters that are easier for me to decode, especially if you've got a lot of I's and H's and S's in your call sign and you send it fast, I'm probably going to ask you for a fill. But if you've got like an I and then you've got a J after that I, guess what? I probably didn't get the I, but I got the J, but I can go back and be like, I think that was an I, and it's weird how that my brain works like that, and it's just, again, it's more spacing. It's more time to think about it. And, I'm trying to work on instant character recognition. And if your call sign has got a J and an O and a T in it, I'm probably going to get it on the first try. But if it's got an H and an S and an I in it, I'm probably going to ask you a couple of times for your call sign again.
Well, that's because you have less think time between the end of the character and the beginning of the next one, because the dits are much shorter.
Right.
If somebody starts sending to me 10 words a minute with no Farnsworth spacing, I am hooped, because I'm still listening to the last letter and then I'm going, what was that? And I've missed 2 more letters. If somebody sends to me at 15 or 20 with 10 word a minute spacing, I'm way better, because I've had time to think about the character in between. You're the same way.
Yep.
So send me a bunch of dits, and unless it's dit, and then there's probably a TH in front of it or a WA, right?
Well, like
but then if you could start to hear the shapes of those word portions. Sorry, TJ.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I used to listen to the ARRL broadcast on, like 20 meters or 40 meters or whatever. And, they would just do text out of QST, which isn't like a QSO. And there's a ton of words that you wouldn't use in a QSO, but it was like, it's a great speed builder and like a word builder. And I used to hate it when they would say something like, this is a something, because it was, this is T, it was like, this is, and I'm like, what in the world was that word?
Yeah.
So I know what you mean about the massive repetitive dits.
Yeah. I've also noticed that that I can, and maybe this is the way that I just learned, and I think we've had this conversation before, is I can copy way faster if I'm in front of a keyboard, a real keyboard, like a QWERTY keyboard, right? Versus on my phone or writing it down.
Totally. I can't write. As a matter of fact, I want to do that code proficiency thing that they have with the ARRL, where you can kind of get like a little cool certificate.
Oh yeah.
I can't even write 20 words a minute, man. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I heard from a CW instructor that there's a limit of 15 words a minute when you're writing things down. Typically, you're pretty restricted, because hand-eye coordination, your hand going moves so fast, which is one reason why, strangely enough, I'm learning that I actually can head copy. That was a revelation when I started my CW Academy last week. I can head copy. I can catch a word. I can catch the drift of something. Ooh, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
And that helps with that 13 words per minute hump,
Sure.
right? On and I guess it all comes back to that's whatever speed it is. If it's 12, if it's 16, if it's 15, the the point where you cannot count your dits and your das, and you're hearing the whole thing as a letter and or a word. And I don't know if like the more advanced people like TJ and Chris, you guys, if there's another hump at 26 words per minute, or and that's where out of the scope of this discussion. But I mean, I'm assuming that there are people that constantly in my club send at 35 words a minute, and they will work me on POTA, and they will send at 35 words a minute. Granted that they will have a bunch of foreign words spacing, and I will get, I will ask them for fills, but they cannot go slow. I was talking to one guy, and he goes, I can't go slower than 25 words a minute, or I can't copy it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I wish I was to that point.
And I think it is hard. I mean, that's why I think you hear a lot of people and you call them, maybe names because they won't slow down for you, but it is harder to bring it down to a slow speed if you can space it out. That's why I would say when I was doing training, 18 words a minute is the speed, and space it out the front. You go to 5 words a minute, go da 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 da, one letter at a time, space it out super slow, but keep the actual speed at like 18-ish. And I think that helps with the 13 word a minute barrier big time.
Coming back to your keyboard comment, Kyle, I think that also kind of comes down to how you're practicing. I know in a couple of weeks we're going to talk about Morse Trainer, maybe. So we'll go over this then. But I found something when I was using that program, it really gamified it for me, and like I would totally get focused in the zone, in the flow, and I was able to type those call signs really fast. And I realized it was going from my ears straight to the keyboard, and I wasn't retaining it in my head. So I then forced myself to not really put my hands up, but wait until I heard the whole call and then typed the whole thing in.
Yes. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more, Tim. I'm sure that a lot of people have this issue of it goes from my ear into my brain straight to my finger, right? And it's gone. And then I don't have to remember it anymore, right? It's on the screen. It's in the logger. It's in whatever I'm typing, right? So then I can concentrate. And maybe this is bad. Maybe I should get away from this. That I'm now concentrating on each letter versus concentrating on the full word or the full call sign. Right?
I think another way to beat the 13 word a minute blues is, and I shouldn't say it, the bad word, contests.
Damn right. I'm all over that, TJ. I tell people they hit me up about talking about MCOMs all the time. I'm going to go into a rat hole here for a minute. And they talk to me about MCOM because of my experience there and my firsthand living through some of it. And I say, please go out and do some phone contesting, go do some sideband contesting, even if you're not a contester, even if you hate it, because it's going to train your ear to listen to multiple things at a time.
Yep.
And so I don't shy away from doing a POTA activation. I can work a pile up because I can hear, because I've trained my ears to listen to multiple things at once and to try and separate out one conversation from that or one stream from that. Contesting, absolutely, to train your ears. I can't endorse that enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to do it, and I think it's a mentality. I don't think you should go into it thinking that you're going to win something.
Hell no, you're going to learn.
You're going to learn, and it's really awesome because you get experience with QRM and trying to work people on a pile up, or even if you don't call CQ, which might be intimidating for some people that are learning CW and getting in there. Just go in there and start working people. Just start listening to the exchanges. And you're going to have like a couple of people right on top of each other, and you're going to have to try to figure out how to separate those streams of Morse code And I think it's great training, and it really helps you with the speed. And I think if you're listening to somebody and they're going like super fast and you're like, I can't even like figure it out. Just sit there and listen to them like 30 times and just see if you can figure out that call sign. And I swear that exercise right there will even help. It's not wasted time.
Yep.
I'd say that it would also help you learn how to use your radio and all the different filters and the RIT moving around and trying to pull out different call signs that are all on top of each other.
Yeah. Learning your radio is a whole nother discussion that we should probably put on the list to talk about on, what are filters? What are roofing filters in the Elecraft world? How do you apply a filter? Why would you want to apply a filter? What is the bandwidth that you should start out listening to whenever you're doing CW? What's
if you're actually really tuned up on somebody? What does the spot function do? Things like that. If you don't have
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that some of my radios do that I really don't know. I just know that, I need to put it in CW mode. I need to pull the filter down whenever I'm running and go to town. And typically, that's the best thing for you to do is get on the air and experiment with all this stuff. But I'm sure that there are other techniques that someone would say, hey, have you tried this little bitty thing that will make your experience that much better,
Yeah.
It was recently I learned that when I use the notch filter on my KX2, you actually have to move off of frequency to get that to work.
Yeah.
I just thought it didn't really work.
There's totally something to be said about playing with your radio a lot and setting it up and listening to it. So earlier in the chat, I pasted the link to the ARRL operating schedule, in which case you'll see the times of day and what time zones they send CW practice out. And these are awesome tools to work your radio and try and play with filtering, pass banding, notching, RIT, all of those things that we want to be able to use. IF pass banding, if your radio like my little one does that, what a great feature. Not all radios are created equally, and you need to learn your radio to maximize out what you're going to hear from it. For sure. Yeah. Kyle, I think that's a stunning idea.
Yeah.
I think here comes a plug for the ARRL field day, which is coming up pretty soon here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Kyle will talk about it a little bit more, but that's a great way to go get together with some folks or go to a club and watch other people do CW. And it's not technically called a contest, and there's this whole controversy of whether it's really a contest or not. But either way, it's a great experience. You can get on there, work some people. Other people are going to be on there, trying to get their way through a CW QSO, and it's great fun. Low pressure.
I think that field day operating CW is I'm probably going to get haters you can put your comments in the comments, whatnot. I think it's one of the best CW contests out there. But it's not a contest. But it's not a contest. I know. Operating events. Because
okay, I'll take.
Because I don't feel like I'm pressured to run at 28 words a minute.
Oh yeah, and a lot of people do run less speed, and at the top of each of the bands is usually folks that are running at 10, 13 words a minute. Because half of the reason why you're doing it, or you should be doing it, is to spotlight what ham radio is and what people are doing with it. And if you're like banging away at like 30 words a minute on CW, which a lot of people do for sure, just ignore them. There are a lot of folks that are doing it slow and kind of like doing demos. You don't even know that there's a demo happening on the other side of the radio at that time, right?
Yeah.
So it's really good experience.
I operated some CW during winter field day, and it was great. I had a great experience because I went up my own speed and I didn't feel like I was pressured to go at a high speed, and people slowed down for me. people, if they were going faster, they were doing some Farnworth spacing, and I could, and also getting on the air and operating in something like that, TJ, is a very good idea, because instantly, and we had this discussion in my contesting club, is every time that you get on and you work a contest and you're like literally just pounding out CW contacts, your speed is going to go up 5 words a minute. I guarantee it.
It is every time.
Every single time. You might not know it. Like, you might get an hour and a half into it, and before you know it, you're bumping up the speed because you're like, this is too slow. I need to go faster, and then, you're sending and receiving at 22 or 23 words a minute. And you're just like, wait a minute, what happened to my 16 words per minute that I was running at an hour and a half ago,
Yeah, for sure. And I think, some of if you're going to do some contests, maybe focus on some of the domestic ones, like my favorite contest of all time is the ARRL sweepstakes contest. And there's a couple of reasons for that. But one of the main reasons is it's a great exchange. The exchange is elaborate and long. You get really great practice with numbers because you have to send the year you were first licensed. There's a serial number associated with it, so it changes a little bit. So you have to kind of like understand what the flow is. So it's really cognitively interesting to me. And I think that like sharpens CW skills massively. Easy one is the ARRL 10-meter contest. Second weekend of December. Exchange is super easy. 599 and your state. Pretty, right? And you actually with the sunspots right now, maybe 10 meters might be open all into the night, but typically you get a little bit of a break because 10 meters is going to close, and you're just like, okay, cool, I can't do anything until the morning, and then fire it back up again. So those are two of my favorites.
Yeah.
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
A minute ago, I love the phrase you used. You were talking about getting on the air with your contest club. And one of the things I've been thinking about in our conversation, this 13 word per minute hump, this is the time when a lot of folks are just getting on the air. I think back in the day, a lot of people got on the air at 5 words a minute, and I don't think people do that anymore. I think they train to get on the air at 13 words a minute. So we kind of have 2 humps here.
Yeah.
Not only is it a speed hump, it's also getting on the air.
Yeah, totally.
I want to add one more thing. We're talking a lot about speed, and if there's some folks in the chat who are early in their CW journey, we always have to say what speed we're working at. We have to put some context where we're at. But I think it's important to keep in mind that you just want to focus on being fluid with your CW. You just want to be competent, like know your characters, be able to have a QSO, whatever speed you're at. If you're at 13 words a minute, you can do a lot of damage at 13 words a minute. You can make hundreds of QSOs at 13 words a minute. Mm-hmm. So, I just want to make sure that if there's anyone in the chat that's early in their CW journey, don't feel like you have to push to a higher speed. You can just really focus on getting good at 13, and then the speed will come.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That matches my experience. And I'll add on to that, Chris. 2 weeks ago, just under 2 weeks ago, was World Amateur Radio Day, April 18th. And I operated as one of the Radio Amateurs of Canada special event station, V6RAC, for that period. And over 7 or 8 hours, I ran about 200 contacts. In the evening, when conditions were stunningly good, I was running 75 contacts an hour at 15 words a minute.
Yeah.
You don't have to go super fast to make a ton of contacts. The next day was, is the sun ever going to wake up? Hurry up, let's go. By comparison to the night before, but notwithstanding.
Yeah, I mean, I
have a lot of fun at
5 words a minute. Back when 5 words a minute was a thing, and it was like, hey, you got to get on the air. And it's like, all right, cool. So I've had some painful for the other person, 5 words a minute QSOs.
Yeah.
Here's some stats for you. James, KE8PZN, he is a very, very big POTA activator.
Yes.
He has taken up CW, and just in 2023. All right, so we're 5 months or 4 months into this, right? In one day, I think he has made over like 5,200 CW contacts at 16, 15, 14, 15, 16 words per minute, which is amazing, unbelievable. Over 5,000 contacts in 4 months on 14 words per minute. So,
And let me point out that, everybody strives to try to get 13, 15 words a minute. That's kind of the conversational speed, right? And so everybody thinks, oh, you got to go faster than that. It's a contest. No, you don't.
no,
You just got to go at a speed you're comfortable with.
right.
That's it.
I don't. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, this. I think that this 13 word per minute bullcrap is just it's something that somebody wants to talk about. Some, like you said, it was the general. It is just this fictitious hump that people have in their mind that they need to get over, and I don't think it exists. I think it's just you go at the speed you need to go at, and you learn at the speed that you learn at. And if that is, if you have a type of a brick wall like I'm having, earlier in the spring, you have these, but you just push through them and you keep practicing and you get on the air, and before you know it, you're copying at 20 words or 22 words a minute. So I don't know if it's like this. Okay, now I'm over the hump. Oh, I'm over the hump. That's great. All right, everything's downhill from there. It's a journey. It's you will find that you have setbacks and you have days that you can't copy and or can't copy proficiently, and you're like, wait a minute, why am I having a bad day? I have bad days too. You just got to keep going at it, keep practicing at it, and it will come.
It will. Yeah, I think that it's a bunch of garbage too. I mean, it's the only reason I think there might be some kind of a little bit of a ridge there is that, you get to the point where you're like maybe counting the dits and das and trying to figure it out, and then going to recognizing the character. There's probably that leap right around the 13-ish word a minute mark, but I think it might even be actually more than that. You could probably count them at 15 words a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about this? TJ and I think it's conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
All right.
Well, just to say, if our conclusion here is that the hump isn't real, plateaus exist, walls exist, and it'll be different for everyone. My plateau right now is rag chewing, and we were all before the stream started talking about this earlier, but it takes hard work to get through your wall or your plateau, whatever it is, and you have to put in the work, and sometimes you have the time to do it, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get down because life gets in the way. Right? Take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of the things that you need to take care of. Your CW will be there. Even whenever I decided that I was going to put it down for a couple weeks and I thought, all right, I'm going to, start practicing again, it came back pretty fast, right? I think maybe I don't have experience in this, but maybe learning CW and getting, to your 40 characters and your character recognition, it's like learning a bike, right? You just need to get back on it, and before you know it, you're doing wheelies again,
I'll put one word of caution around that from my own experience. When I got frustrated at it and I put it away for too long, it was super hard for me to pick back up. If life's getting in the way, if you can take 5 minutes out to listen to a code practice, that much, as you're out walking the dog, listen to it on a podcast or on a tape or whatever, you'll be better off. Just do something every day.
Yeah. What are you going to say, TJ?
No, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. Chris,
Yeah.
any part?
Looking forward to contest season. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Chris, any parting words? Anything you
Um,
want to scold me over that I said?
Whatever. Only thing on my mind is I just think this is super cool that this is, May 1st, and this is something that Kyle, you set out to do at the beginning of the year every 2 weeks, and it's still rocking and rolling. I mean, I just think it's great that you're pushing the CW conversation on a bi-weekly basis, and it's gone this long, and you've got plans in the works going forward. Hats off to you.
Thanks. Yeah, we got some cool things planned for the summer. I know that we missed last week. I had an appointment that I couldn't move, or 2 weeks ago. But yeah, we've got probably 4 or 5 topics that we're going to hit. And we got some guests that are going to come on. We've got some people going to show off some cool things that they've invented or want to show off an app. So yeah, we're going to kind of branch out this summer. And hopefully, the whole goal that I set out to have is I just wanted to get people in the room to talk about CW and talk about all of the hurdles and all of the things that people need to do and all the trials and tribulations. Because whenever I was going through the Long Island CW Club, I had my classmates, but it was kind of everyone learned at their own pace, and I really didn't get to know everyone in the class, right? It was like I dropped in and, I saw kind of the same faces, and that was great. But I really didn't have anybody to talk with about CW unless I went to a club meeting and talked to my Elmers and talked to other people. So hopefully we're bringing the conversation to the internet, and this is like, we're on your big screen and you're having the conversation with us in your head and on the chat here and putting your thoughts about CW and your journey down this road, because all of us had the same road, right? Everyone starts from zero, right? And everyone's got to start somewhere. But yeah, thanks.
I
Yeah,
think
well
we're
said.
in a great time. We've got a lot of resources like this, as well as apps and programs. And I don't know if anyone's ever been on, was it Morsel, morsle.us, I think it is.
Yeah.
Every day.
There's like so many things that you could do. I mean, back in the day, I didn't have any of that. And I honestly did try. There was like CW hypnosis tapes that I bought, so I could like sleep and listen to CW while I'm sleeping, and then magically I would know 20 words a minute. Guess what? They did not work.
Morsel.fun. Morsel.fun is a great.
Morsel.fun.
I get on. Don't tell my boss. I get on that during bad teams meetings.
I won't tell anyone.
Man.
It's a good thing that we're just all talking privately amongst the 5 of
Right,
us here.
right.
I used to just like fire my ICOM up and kind of learn how to use it while I'm on a Teams meeting.
Yeah, that never happens.
Oh wait, did I say that out loud?
Vince, any parting words?
None. Actually, I'm all good. We've got this little kit that my buddy and I we remarket, and it's called the Whiskey 8 Bravo Hotel Morse Tutor. And I popped a link in the chat to that if you're looking to buy a kit and you want to solder it up. If you don't want to solder it up, we can help you with that too. It's a slightly different product than the Morserino, and in a couple of episodes' time, we'll even show you how it works.
Yes. Yep. We're gonna have some demos.
Head-to-head demos, no less.
Tim, last word of the night.
No parting words, just thanks for hosting, Kyle.
Yep, you're welcome. Thanks everyone for being here on the roundtable. If it was just me talking, I'd have about 4 viewers. So thank you for you guys being on and putting up with my crap. And then also thanks to all of the people, all the 40 people or so in the that are streaming this and puts information and thoughts and how they learned in the chat. Appreciate it. The stream wouldn't be anything without the chat and also the moderators. Thanks for all the moderators. So anyway, that is it. It's 9:00. Go out and do some POTA, do some soda, get on the air. Join the Long Island CW Club. Yeah, that's all I got. That's it. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks, the week before, or the Monday before Dayton. So maybe we'll talk about some CW at Dayton, and yeah,
We're
see
gonna
what
live
happens.
stream at the Begali booth. Let's do it. Let's do it. The live
Leave your
stream.
wallets at the hotel.
Kyle, you're doing it, man.
We'll see if we can get internet cell phone coverage in those big metal buildings. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
would-
want a 4-walk live stream for sure. I'm going to be looking for that in my feed.
all right, we'll do. We'll schedule it. All right, thanks everyone. 73.
Yep, 7-3.
W on everyone.